Today's conversation is on reality being yours as you think in a certain way. Reality being yours as you think in a certain way. The way I relate to thinking in a certain way is how Wallace Wattles describes it in his book, The Science of Getting Rich. Thinking and acting in the certain way. We could say the way of certainty. How can the individual not think and act in a certain way to realize that reality is theirs? Or we could say reality is rigged in our favor. It also happens to be rigged in the favor of all. How does the individual not realize this? Well, the individual may be identified with what the Bible refers to as the old man. And through this identification, they appear to not be really thinking for themselves. Not be really thinking for themselves. And by that I mean specifically thinking from untrue beliefs that belong to the old man, which manifest as trying to control things rather than being aligned with our true nature and thus reality unfolding in a way that is in our favor and, as mentioned, happens to be in harmony with all as mutually harmonious relationships, wonderful lifestyle, whatever you consider to be a wonderful lifestyle, harmonious business or career, the authentic way, the real way. Old man thinking, which is not you thinking, as you are not the old man, suggests otherwise. And by that I mean thoughts appearing in mind that seem to suggest you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Or we could summarize that and say, not fulfilled. That your true nature is not fulfillment, which is an illusion. You are fulfilled. I am that I am sums up the whole truth. As in, you are created in the perfect image of the Creator, as fulfilled. Thoughts that appear in mind that suggest that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment is not you really thinking. In other words, when we really begin to think for ourselves, we realize that it is an illusion to think in terms of separation from the fact that we are fulfilled. Why do I say that? Well, if you take a moment to be still, not identify with the untrue illusory thinking, which is not you really thinking. That's old man thinking. You allow the emotions to be released, from which the old man interprets the emotions to suggest otherwise, as in suggest separation. By being still, you capture the feeling of being devoid of separation. You realize that thoughts of separation only appear in mind as you transcend these thoughts. Beliefs that suggest otherwise can only appear in mind to seem to suggest otherwise via these thoughts that these beliefs spawn, we could say, in mind that suggest otherwise. And you realize it's not you. You can define the feeling of being devoid of separation as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. These are great words that point to our true nature. Now, we can really think for ourselves. So when it comes to relationships, for example, we can think we really can have the relationships that we desire. When we think of business, we can really think, that we really can have the business that we desire. We may then at that point begin to imagine what that relationship could look like. We may then begin to imagine what that business could look like, or career, or lifestyle. And then we can move from thinking about that to thinking from that, acknowledging that those are symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now I speak from experience because, oh, check this out. Speaking about ideal harmonious relationships, how synchronistic is that? Two jets flying right over our head. Perhaps there may be an air show. So, in relation to this synchronicity, what you desire is yours. You imagine it and it happens, and synchronicities and signs appear. Maybe you see your relationship, ideal harmonious relationship, you see each other as two jets, soaring, flying high, free, together. So you can move from thinking of to thinking from, actually entering into the scene via imagination. Why do we do this? Well, we know that our wonderful human imagination, the wonderful human imagination, is a way that we can accept ourselves. Another way of saying this is, never be ashamed of the being that you are. Never be ashamed of being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Discover your being by being still. Discover your true nature by being still, exactly like how we did it. And you will see that you are devoid of separation. How fun is that? Devoid of separation. And as a result, you can freely imagine what those symbols are that represent your true nature. Again, the symbols can be relationships, business, hobbies, whatever it is that you desire. You go within to discover who you are, your true nature. And I found, as I trust you have as well, that images flash upon your mind's eye of your true nature as symbols. And you can move from thinking about these visions, which we can call prophecies, to thinking from the end. In other words, if you are, which you are, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, then you can see yourself being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So never be ashamed of the being you are. Accept yourself the way you are as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. By imagining yourself being the person that you desire to be, having the kind of relationships that you desire to have, the wonderful life experiences that you desire to have. By being still, you discover your true nature, and you'll capture the feeling of being complete, devoid of separation, being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. This is what I mean when I say you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So you capture the feeling, or you can imagine having these wonderful life experiences. And sure enough, signs, synchronicities, such as the one you just saw, appear, which to me I found are part of the bridge of incidents to actualizing our true way of being. Never be ashamed of the being you are. Discover yourself by being still, and begin accepting yourself the way you are, having discovered yourself to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Life seems to me to be a journey of self-acceptance. I trust you've noticed this. Anything you desire, you have. You desire love, you have it. You desire happiness, you have it. You desire peace, you have it. You desire fulfillment, which as mentioned we could sum this all up as, you have it. You desire bliss, you are bliss, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. You have it. You are it. As you accept yourself the way you are, as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, visions flash upon your mind's eye. I trust you've noticed this. My first vision with Think and Grow Rich was to get out of $50,000 debt, and it happened. I had a number of visions after that. They all happened, including moving up in my corporate career, building my IT business to success, starting and building it to success, ideal harmonious relationships, friendships, life experiences, including this. This was once a vision. I had a vision that I could walk around and talk to you about my life experiences in a way that I trust is beneficial for you. And over the years, I made many videos with mind maps, which have been very helpful. And then all of a sudden, the idea arose, let's grab my camera and go for a walk. And here I am doing it. I imagined it one time. I said, wouldn't it be cool to connect with people all around the world? I do events, I do Zoom sessions, one-on-one. Yet, I could also invite everyone to the places that I go to and talk about life experiences, insights, perspectives. And we're doing it right now. And I trust you noticed as well as we're having this conversation, everything appears to be in harmony. So we crossed over the bridge. We're back in the garden of the Greek gods, so we'll go for a little bit of a walk over there as we continue this conversation. Really think for yourself. Thinking and acting in a certain way. Let's talk about the acting in a certain way part. See, back in the days, it would have been, let's say, very stressful for me. I would have a lot of uncertainty thoughts, uncertainty-based thoughts, doubt-based thoughts that would appear in mind, fear-based thoughts, as a result of thinking about the idea, we could say, of grabbing my camera, going for a walk, as people are around. There isn't too many people around right now. This is during the day on a weekday, yet there are people around. But the old man would suggest, what will people think of you if you are walking around with a camera, talking into the camera and being very expressive like so? I would have these thoughts in mind before, to the point where I would think, or so it would appear that way, it was old man thinking. It was not me really thinking. We could say old man was thinking that people would criticize me for doing the thing that I genuinely desire to do, which is an illusion. Nobody does it, as you see. Because everyone is in harmony with me, everyone is in harmony with you, and we are in harmony with all. That is how we really think for ourselves. To think otherwise would be unwise, and thus it's not you really thinking. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment pushed out as wonderful life symbols, wonderful life experiences, wonderful harmonious relationships. Anything that appears to suggest otherwise is illusory. That's simply old man thinking arising in mind, seeming to suggest otherwise. That's not you really thinking. If you think that your experience is not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, that's not you really thinking. That's old man thinking. That's what I meant by in the beginning when I said releasing identification to the old man as referred to in the Bible. The old man thinks in terms of separation. There is no separation. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. There is no separation from God. God does everything in a beautifully harmonious way that happens to be in harmony with you and also in harmony with all. And life is experienced then as a wonderful, magical adventure. So much so that you see it everywhere. Synchronicities, wonderful life experiences. And now I get to capture some of them with you. That was an interesting one with the two jets. I consider two jets as a symbol of ideal harmonious relationship. You may have a different symbol. They symbolically appear just like that. Isn't it wonderful? So again, back to the beginning, all we're doing is being the way we are. really thinking for ourselves. And as we think this way, we acknowledge that reality is ours, as in all is in harmony with you, and you are in harmony with all, as I am in harmony with you, and you are in harmony with me. We appear to play out a wonderful harmonious relationship. And it always ends up being in mutual harmony and benefit. I trust you acknowledge that as well. To suggest otherwise is unwise, as mentioned, and it's not you thinking. That's old man thinking. As we're taught in the Bible, put off the former conversation, which is an illusory conversation that belongs to the old man, that thinks in terms of separation from the fact that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. We did a simple exercise. You can do this anytime. You don't necessarily have to go through steps like that. You can experience it wherever you are. You can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment wherever you are. Wherever you are, there you are. Complete, whole, fulfilled. So let's summarize now. If you really think for yourself, you acknowledge that reality is yours. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and you experience it pushed out as the wonderful experiences of life that are symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You can really think for yourself by imagining what implies love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and move from thinking about those symbols that appear in mind to thinking from them, true self-acceptance. Not being ashamed of the being that we are. We are beyond shame and condemnation. We exist beyond shame and condemnation. Shame and condemnation is illusory thinking, and that belongs to the old man, which is not you. That is not you really thinking. Now, we discover ourselves and we acknowledge ourselves in the silence, in the stillness, as being devoid of separation, whole, complete. Holy in the Bible means whole, complete, one with God, thus devoid of separation from our true nature, which is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Devoid of separation. We experience that in the moment. We could say for no reason at all. Then, by remaining in that feeling, you start to witness the wonderful synchronicities, wonderful life experiences appear to be as symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Whatever it is that you desire as, you could say, ideal harmonious relationships, friendships, life experiences. And this continues more so each moment with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. This has been my experience since 2004 when I discovered it through Think and Grow Rich. 3 chapters that were very helpful for me were, number 1, auto-suggestion, not necessarily in this order. Number 2, the subconscious mind. And number 3, the sixth sense. Why I like these, some of the reasons why, and we discussed this extensively recently, I'll link in the description to that video, is I realized that in the subconscious mind, there could be these illusory beliefs that belong to the old man that are stored in there that I was thinking that I was identified with, but that wasn't me really thinking. And through autosuggestion, I released identification to those illusory beliefs, as autosuggestions are statements of acknowledgement of the being I am. Notice this, autosuggestions are acknowledgement. Pray as though you have received it, and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. It is yours. So we acknowledge it through prayer, or you could use autosuggestions. And the sixth sense, via the sixth sense, I receive within visions, definite chief aims, as he talks about it. I realize my definite major purpose in life, part of which includes enjoying this conversation with you, to share this with you in my style. As Napoleon Hill shared it in his style, I share it in my style. So these three combined brought me to the realization that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and via the sixth sense, images flash upon my mind's eye as prophecies, you could say, or promises of what I shall experience. And I simply move from thinking about them to thinking from them. As in, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. These visions are a form of self-acceptance. For example, if you desire to be in a harmonious relationship and you see yourself in a relationship that is harmonious, we can call that self-acceptance because you accept yourself. You don't think that you don't deserve that relationship or that relationship is not for you, which is an illusion to think that way. That's not you really thinking. That's old man thinking. And you are not the old man. So we accept self. So again, we discover the self by being still. We discover the true nature of self as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, while being still. And we don't shame or condemn self. Never be ashamed of the being you are. And you accept yourself. Continue accepting yourself. Life is a journey of self-acceptance. That's what I mean. Anytime a thought arises in mind that suggests otherwise, that suggests you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, acknowledge that's not you really thinking. Think and act in a certain way. So the way I do this is anytime a thought arises in mind that is not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I don't identify with it. Visions flash upon my mind's eye as symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I move from thinking about or thinking of to thinking from. And I end up doing the things, thinking and acting in the certain way as articulated in the book, The Science of Getting Rich. And if, let's say, I was hesitating to act in the certain way, the way that I truly desire, for example, in relationships, a person has accepted ideal harmonious relationships as the way, then all of a sudden they're around people and illusory thoughts of separation appear in mind. They genuinely desire to start a conversation with someone that they find interesting. These illusory thoughts appear in mind. That is them not really thinking. That's old man thinking. We simply don't identify with it and we think and act in a certain way. As in, we start that conversation with that person that we feel inspired to start that conversation with. Or we might notice that we're out and about and a person starts a conversation with us. And there may be illusory thoughts of separation that appear in mind, which again is not you really thinking. That's old man thinking. You genuinely desire to engage in this conversation with this person. You can feel it, yet these illusory thoughts suggest otherwise. So we release identification to those illusory thoughts and the conversation flows. I trust you've noticed this. This is not new to you. You've experienced this. All we're doing here is accepting ourselves the way we are, being as we are. Be as you are. You are perfect now. You are whole, complete, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You need nothing. Continue accepting yourself and you'll notice that both those scenarios can happen. You see someone that you desire to talk to, you'll walk over and start the conversation with them. The conversation flows. Or you're out and about, people start coming up to you and talking to you, the conversations flow. It happens naturally, flow-based, because there's no more conditions. There's no condition that suggests if this person says this, then happiness, then love, then fulfillment, then bliss, then peace, and if they don't say that, then not love, not happiness, not peace, not bliss, not fulfillment. Those conditions are removed. They're illusory. They belong to, again, what the Bible refers to as the old man, which is not you really thinking. The old man is the unreal man, the illusory man that appears only in mind for whatever the reason may be, we simply put off the former conversations, the former thinking patterns that belong to the old man, to really think for ourselves. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, being as I am, I really think for myself, from the premise of my true nature, to experience my true nature of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, in, on, and as the outer appearances of God, as there's only God, in the reality of God, which is perfect, good, and pleasing. Thus, I do not conform to the patterns of the illusory old man, to be as I am, experiencing God, experiencing heaven on earth, wherever I appear.